Hello, we are a group of students from UMass Amherst Stockbridge School of Agriculture, and we are interested in researching how the pathogenicity of rice blast, a disease caused by the fungi Magnaporthy oryzae, will be impacted by changing climate regimes. Rice is one of the most important staple crops in the globe, and delving into this topic will help us understand the fate of rice production globally and how to mitigate and find solutions to this problem. So the disease at hand is called rice blast, which is caused by the pathogen Magnaporthy oryzae, with the host being rice.
Some symptoms of this infection include various forms of rot on different infection sites. There are diamond-shaped lesions that can appear on the leaf shoot and will typically have a white or gray center with a brown or red border. Infections can also take place on the nodes and at the junction of the leaf blade and sheath and at the panicle. Example of all these infections are shown in the middle of the screen. This disease is a monocyclic disease and it thrives in temperatures between 63 and 73 degrees. It thrives in high humidity and dewiness must be prevalent on the leaf in order for infection to occur.
So Magnaporthy oryzae was first identified in the 1930s. It is the most important fungal pathogen of rice with a high degree of host specificity. It can be found in over 85 countries worldwide, most important rice disease in China, Japan, and the USA, where it can cause severe yield losses. It also has never been fully eliminated from a region in which rice is grown because, unfortunately, even though many strategies have been attempted, the fungus keeps building resistance and reappearing.
It is understood that climate warming will put stress on our global food production. And this figure is a map of the high-risk areas in continental Asia in which rice crop loss will be predicted from simulated models.
So the climate change impacts. So currently CO2 levels are rising and the temperature is rising as well. And these are two of the most important facets of climate change. They're the ones that are most discussed in the media and the news and all of that stuff. And they're very impactful to rice blast because rice blast, it thrives in these warm temperatures and high humidity. So as temperatures continue to increase and humidity as well continues to increase, rice blast will continue to thrive and will continue to destroy rice. Also, high concentrations of CO2 will change plant physiology and susceptibility to the disease. So as the CO2 continues to increase, these plants, they're going to be more vulnerable to the fungus, and yields will continue to be decimated by the fungus. And it is hypothesized that the severity of rice blast will increase in colder and high latitude regions where the temperatures are increasing by around 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. And again, this is another aspect of climate change where the rising temperatures continue to benefit this fungus and continue to create more ability for it to thrive in rice, which again will continue to just deplete rice amounts. And from what we learned in this research is that there really aren't that many models that kind of look at this effect that climate has on this really important and impactful disease. And there needs to be more done and more research done and more models made.
And since there isn't a clear answer to how this disease will play out with global warming conditions, there are a few studies in existence that have considered the impacts of climate on rice blast diseases. For example, Liu et al. 1998 created a model that used historical weather data in 5 Asian countries and predicted a correlation between increased severity of rice blast disease to increasing temperatures in the cooler subtropic regions. Gloria et al. 2013 did a field experiment in Brazil where they used CO2 chambers to stimulate increasing anthropogenic concentrations. And through monitoring these, they found results that showed how additions of CO2 changes in the growth of 3 rice cultivars showed increase in the infection of rice blast disease. And then lastly, Hori T 2019 more broadly studied how rice irrigation could be impacted from global climate change, and they created a simulation model called the SIMRIW to regionally predict these temperature changes on rice production. And one of their findings was that several regions of Japan were expected to lose 15 to 30% of rice crops under doubled CO2 concentration conditions.
When it comes to socioeconomic destruction and food insecurity, rice blast has had a major impact. More than half the world's population depend on rice for more than 20% of their calorie demand, showing exactly how important it is as a staple crop. A moderate infection is enough to cause a 50% reduction in yield, which is a major hit for crop producers. Annually, the fungus destroys enough rice crop to feed 60 million people and can also affect wheat crops, leading to loss of a more important staple crop.
So how can we stop rice blast? We have found there to be 3 different approaches that can be used together to stop this disease. The first approach is scouting for the disease early on, and this can be done by monitoring plants from the time they are seeded until they are harvested. And especially we want to monitor those plants that are on the edges of fields as they show symptoms the most easily to identify, and this way you can treat the symptoms as soon as possible with fungicides. The second approach is to use prevention methods to try to inhibit rice blast. This can be done through seed distribution and planting, which would be planting 15 to 20 seeds or plants per square foot, which will increase canopy cover and lead to an increased probability of having plants that survive. Another prevention method is flooding the fields that the rice is grown in. Rice blast prefers drought conditions, so it is beneficial to grow rice in flooded fields where flood levels are easily maintained. And this is done by literally flooding the field with 2 to 4 inches of water once the plant is over 6 inches tall. And then the third approach is to methodically apply fertilizer and fungicide. This will avoid excess nitrogen overall. We want to avoid excess nitrogen from fertilizers, as rice blast favors excess nitrogen. And then we also can employ a multi-step application of fungicide. Depending on where you are, this will differ in what it looks like, but typically it includes a spraying fungicide around 1 week before heading, and then again 2 days after 50% of the heading has been done on the field. Thank you for listening. If you're looking for more information, we have included a couple of links on one of these following slides. And